Hi there, it's Sandra from Savvy Teaching Tips again. Please don't forget to like and subscribe below, ring the bell for notifications of all my upcoming videos. Today I want to talk about how I introduce journal writing at the beginning of the school year. So kids are really struggling with self-regulation these days, and so what I've found over the last couple of years is when I introduce writing in a journal, kids are struggling to figure out what page to write on, how the page is set up, what page to write on next. All of those things that we used to take for granted, we can't do that anymore. We need to give the kids much more guidance. So to prevent the chaos of when a kid cannot find a blank page in their journal because they've been randomly picking pages out of their journal every day, I introduce journal in a very structured with a temporary journal. And so the journal books that we use where I live are bound by some staples, as you can see. And so what I do is I pull out 2 pages from the middle and staple them down the side. And so that makes an 8-page journal. And I sometimes even glue a little piece of paper on the front to say, so-and-so September journal, because school starts in September where I work. Something like that to give the kids the idea that this is their cover and then the next page is where everything starts. And then we go page to page to page. And at the beginning of the year, I really only want a page or less of writing because I'm trying to build the routine. So, with kindergarten, I start with a blank notebook, and if the kids start to do a lot of writing, then I will draw a line and say, can you try your picture on the top and the writing below? And that doesn't always work for many kids, but it does work for a lot of them, and it starts them on the road to I'm putting the writing at the bottom and I'm doing the illustrating at the top, which is what the journal is. So, and then I'll scribe what they've drawn, and when I'm scribing, I will draw a line and do my scribing below so that they can make that connection between the picture at the top and the writing at the bottom. So with grade 1s, I might draw the lines at the start of the year, build them into the notebooks that we have here with lines like this, which are just plain ruled. And this one doesn't even have a margin, but some of them have margins. The ones that have interlined, where there's the dashed line in the middle, that's for grade 2 and 3, and those ones have margins. So I want to talk to them about how to write in their journal on the lines, and the picture goes on top. So here's the series of events that I do when I'm introducing journal. So the first thing I'll do is I'll be standing in front of my whiteboard, and I'll say to the kids, well, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to write the date. So step 1 is the date. And even with kindergarten, I will write date on the board. And I expect them to copy the date down. The second thing that we're going to do is we're going to write and draw. And I don't care if you write first or you draw first, but you're going to write and draw before you come to see me, the teacher. So we got 1 is the date, 2 we're writing and drawing. What's the third thing you do? Well, the third thing you do is you get a star before you color. So this also prevents kids from drawing with crayons, which drives me crazy because you can do so much more with a sharp pencil. And I want them to work on building the detail in everything, their writing and their drawing. So I make them draw with a pencil. Then we can do coloring, or give it to the teacher, she'll give you a star, then it's okay to color. And the fourth thing is, of course, color. Let's make that a capital C, there. Color, that's the fourth thing. So, and I will refer to this over time, like every day for the first couple of weeks, I'll remember we're doing our date first, then we're going to write and draw, then we're going to get a star, then we're going to color. It's super easy for me to write on the whiteboard, and it's super easy for me to go, oh, did you do number 3? Go look on the board. What's number 3? Number 3 is a star. What does that mean? It means get a star. Did you get a star? No. Oh, well, next we need to make sure you get a star. So I'm going to give you a star, and you're going to go and color a little bit more. That sort of thing. That seems to be the biggest breakdown, is the kids, they write and they draw and then they color before they come to see me. So I'm trying to train them out of that. Let's go over in detail what that means. So step 1 is write the date. So pick a spot on the page that you want your students to always write the date. drill this into them. The first thing they do is they write the date. And I walk around, I'll say to them, okay, I've passed out your journals the very first day. Remember, these are the practice journals or the September journals. Okay, we're going to write the date. And I want the date on the first line. So if this is my journal, I want it right here on the first line. And I will model it with a blank journal, and I will walk around and I will show all of them. See where I wrote the date? Now let's see if you can write the date. And I will wait till they all write the date. And I talk to them about starting on the left margin and writing to the other side of the line and going back to the margin to write the next line, because over the years, it's incredible the number of students who will increasingly move the margin over. And so it looks like, I call it walking down the stairs writing. Your writing is walking down the stairs. So tomorrow, can we try and have our writing not walking down the stairs? Let's have it start on the margin each time. Kids find that cute. So the next step is write and draw. I do have a video coming up about what to write when you don't know what to write about. So for kids who are struggling to come up with ideas, that's another video. But right now we're just talking about what I'm expecting when they are doing writing in their journal. So, and I've also linked below a freebie with journal topics that you can cut out and glue on their journal page, and then that will be the topic for the day. And you can manage that however you want in your classroom. Anyway, I simply tell the kids, I want you to write and I want you to draw. And then I also give them a few parameters about writing. The first day I'll just say write and draw. Let's see what we get. And even the second day that might happen. But by the third day, I'm saying to them, okay, so 1 sentence for first grade, 2 sentences for second grade, and 3 sentences for third grade. Of course, third graders can usually write more than 3 sentences, but we're starting things off low stress and easy for the kids. And my expectations are crystal clear. This is what I expect. If you give me more, that's awesome, but that's not expected. And then for drawing, that was what I mean about writing, but for drawing, some kids, they just get totally bogged down into this, I'm producing a work of art. And I tell them, that's a beautiful piece of art. This is a writing activity. And so we're not, we're going to color this piece of art and we're going to continue on with their journal. But next time, I don't want a piece of art. Save the art for art class. Right now, what I want is just a illustration that tells me what your writing is. Because some kids need to draw first to write, and if they need to draw their ideas before they write them, I want them to do that, but I do not need a super detailed piece of art that takes 4 hours to do. I just need a quick picture to illustrate the writing. So conversely though, when they're drawing, some kids just don't draw very much at all, and they'll draw stick figures. And so I'll say to them, well, they'll say, this is me and my mom. And I'll go, well, which one's your mom? Well, this one's my mom. Well, how do you know? I can't see her hair. I can't see her face. What's she wearing? And they think it's funny. I even say to them sometimes, are they naked? And they're like, oh, no. Well, draw the clothes. I'd like to see the clothes on them. Or I'll say, where's this person's face or their hands? And so I usually get a little laugh out of them, and then they go off and finish that. Once they've done that, then they're going to get a star. They need to get a star. That's step 3. But they need to come up to me to get the star. And at the beginning of the year, when there's not, I haven't expected them to write very much, I will get them to read it to me. I do not expect correct spelling at this time of year. I do not correct a lot of their writing. I want them to encourage to get their writing down on paper. The more writing, the better. But, just 1 page for the beginning of the first couple of days. Once they get a star, they get to go color. So as far as coloring goes, I have some rules for this as well. So if you're a 5-year-old, you need to use at least 5 colors. And you would be amazed at how many kids will, take the orange crayon and just color everything 1 color and then come back, I'm done. And I have to say, oh, how old are you? You're 5 years old? Oh, well, how many colors do you need to use? And if they really struggle with that, I will help them. I will go over to their desk. We will pull out 5 colors and leave them. You need to use all of these in your picture before you can come and see me. So 6-year-olds need to use at least 6 colors, 7-year-olds, 7 colors, 8-year-olds, 8 colors or more. If they want to use more than whatever their age is, perfect, but they need to use at least as many colors as how old they are. When I teach this activity of how to use your journal, I will write the steps on the board for the first week or so. Older children might need more than one lesson to complete a whole journal entry, especially if they write a lot. And some children are also very slow at completing work. So with those kids, I need them to hand in their incomplete journals at the end of the time period. So I collect them open to the page that they're working on. This gives me the chance to look at it as I collect it to see how much they've done if I haven't had a chance to get around to everybody in the classroom. And it also gives me a chance when I pass it out the next day to say, oh, looks like you need to work on this now, so that the kids don't just turn the page and start a new journal, because a lot of them will do that. And then you end up with this book of incomplete journal entries, which is not, it doesn't look good for the parents, I feel. So I think it's easier if you just make sure they complete their journal entries. I can also talk to them and say things like, oh, wow, I really like how your printing is all on the line. Your letters are all sitting on the line, Susie. That's fantastic. Or I might say, okay, Lisa, you need to make finger spaces between all of your words, because you started here and these ones, that's very hard to tell. So with the rest of your writing, can you make sure that there are finger spaces between your words? So this is my routine. And I realize it's really structured, but I don't put limits on what they write about at the beginning of the year because I want to foster their creativity. But I also want to teach them about writing conventions, because having your letters sit on the line, having finger spaces between your words, having capitals and periods are all just as important as spelling. And so right now, all I want them to do is, spelling kids can really stress out about. So let's work on getting those letters formed nicely and on the line, finger spaces, and we'll work towards spelling when we're teaching spelling. After they've done this 7 or 8 times, they've filled their temporary journal, then I'll move them onto a full notebook and they get their own journal. This is a big deal. And I really like to congratulate kids who finished their September journal and now they can move on to the big journal. And then, of course, later in the year, there's a lot of kids who will actually complete that journal and move on to a third journal. And that, again, is a big deal. Remember that even though some of them have done it 7 or 8 times, they're still not always going to be confident on what is the next page to write on, where to put the date. So keep an eye on them, at the start of the period and make sure that they're starting off on the right page. And then you'll end up with these really nice journals. I used to have journals that were a mess. I could never figure out how other teachers got their students to write such nice, neat, beautiful journals. And mine were always, because I was really about, I want to foster their creativity. I want them to get their ideas on the page. But I also wanted them to learn the conventions of writing. And that took me years to figure out. And so now I'm telling you how I do it, because this for me works really well. And the kids, the journals that they've been producing for me for the last few years have been fantastic. I've been really happy with them. And I'll save you some time and just show you how I do it. That's all I have to say for today. So don't forget, please check out my Facebook and my Instagram at Savvy Teaching Tips, and also my TikTok at Savvy Teaching. Bye.